So are phone-free schools what Scottish education needs? We spoke with Andy Harvey, who's the National Education Officer for the EIS Teaching Union, and university student Anna Dunn. Thank you both so much for joining us. So this is one of the lockable pouches. I think they're used in concerts now. I think Bob Dylan used them on his latest tour. You said you were at a concert where they were being used last night. And we saw in Vanessa's report how they're actually being used. I didn't want to risk putting my phone in here, but when you were at school, which was just a couple of years ago, would you have welcomed the use of these lockable pouches?
To be honest, I don't think I would have. I think that I felt like I could be trusted with my phone, and I think a lot of people do feel that way whether they're on them in class or not. I think it is important to kind of consult young people in these conversations when we're discussing this and kind of work with them to move forward with mobile phones in schools.
Do you broadly welcome this pilot scheme? Do you think it's needed?
I think the EIS is really pleased to see that schools are being supported to take steps to regulate the use of mobile phones. Classrooms and schools are regulated environments for a reason, because they need to protect the safety of learners and teachers, and also they need to place a priority on teaching and learning without distraction. But I would echo what Anna says there about the importance, and this was reflected in the Scottish Government's guidance, of the whole school community buying in to such steps. So, and that includes children and young people, it includes teachers, it includes school leaders and parents. Whether this particular instrument is the correct one remains to be seen, and I guess we'll see that in the pilot.
I mean, what do you think? What Andy's saying there, everyone has to kind of buy into it. It sounds like you wouldn't buy into it, but some of the children in the report, the pupils rather, did seem to think it was a good thing.
Yeah, I think from my experience at school, and even speaking to my peers about this, I don't think many would be in support of having these pouches, because I think for a lot of people, even having their phone can be a kind of comfort thing, or even contacting home during the school day can be kind of a comfort if you're feeling anxious in school, that kind of thing.
But are they not very distracting? Is it not very disruptive to have them in classrooms?
I think to an extent, but I think that there are kind of wider behavioural issues that are maybe tied to that instead, rather than phones themselves. And I think resources could be put into kind of other ways of tackling people being on their phones and being disruptive, rather than kind of tackling having the phones themselves.
That's a really interesting point you're making there, but what are teachers, what are your members saying about, you know, pilot schemes like this and the use of phones in general?
Yeah, the misuse of mobile phones has been a significant issue for teachers in schools across Scotland for some time. And at the lower end of the scale, it is disruptive. You know, lessons are disrupted by, as the head teacher on the piece said, they are constantly nagging pupils to put their phones away. But then, and also notifications, but then there are longer term impacts on young people's concentration, the state of hypervigilance and anxiety that sometimes mobile phones cause. And then we go to the more serious end of the scale, where we've seen cyberbullying taking place, and we've also seen bullying incidents and the filmed by mobile phones, and people filmed without permission, and then those images being disseminated in social media. So, notwithstanding the very good points that Anna makes, these are a real headache for schools, but I would stress that mobile phones, from what our members teach us, are only one of the problems that teachers face, and we have to see mobile phones as part of the wider behaviour and disruption issues that are going on in schools.
I mean, how easy is it to kind of impose these bans? Because a lot of kids will be very reluctant to give them up.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of hard to enforce that, and people kind of can find ways around it as well. I think it can be quite challenging to kind of be away from your phone 100%, and that's something I'm in my generation are kind of all very we can all relate to. But I think that there definitely can be kind of different ways to get around it.
I mean, does it create more work for teachers imposing these bans and making sure everyone's off their phones? Does there something else for overworked teachers to deal with?
Absolutely, and I would agree what you say there about a whole generation of young people who are just accustomed to having their mobile phones. But when the EIS sat down with the Scottish Government to discuss the new guidance, we made two very clear points. We said that the developing policies and practices which would regulate mobile phone use in schools was not a cost-free option. And we see today from the initiative in Edinburgh that there is a cash resource required there. Now, this is a pilot. We all obviously need to do due diligence to make sure that it would be money well spent. But what we'd ask the Cabinet Secretary, who said she would back head teachers who were regulating mobile phone, is who is going to pay for this, and will schools be supported with additional resource to support such a rollout? The other thing that I would say is that this is one of a number of issues that teachers have to deal with in school. We have class sizes of 33. We're working on average 11 hours extra a week, and we have over 40% of young people in mainstream classes with additional support needs. This is another burden on teachers to police, and they must be supported with extra staff and extra resources.
Yeah. Do you think that we're maybe a bit too late to the party with banning mobile phones? I mean, kids are already very reliant on them, and you think we should maybe, the technology is here now, we should just be working with it?
Yeah. I think it makes more sense to kind of work with young people and using technology in the classroom. For example, Glasgow City Council implemented iPads in schools, and there was a real push for digital learning, and I think that was really beneficial. And I think councils where that's not been implemented, mobile phones can be used as an educational source, and they can be used for things like mental health and support, and even just kind of contacting friends. And I think they are such an important part of kind of regular socialising today.
And they're here to stay, aren't they? We'll have to leave it there, but thank you both very much indeed for joining us.